Okay. How's everyone doing?
How's everybody doing? Woohoo! Okay. So
When you open your mind and you see what's really happening in the world and the true nature of reality, even in the 5 sense play-out world, the movie world of everyday experience, then you start to see that actually the game is very different.
We saw the very best of this country even as we recognized the cracks in our social safety net, the need to do even more to protect and support the most vulnerable. And as we've done that work, as we as a government have been there for people, we've reached a moment where we can see it. We can see the end of this pandemic. We can see the decisions we need to make in order to build back better.
And what's happening with the banking chaos is they're creating a massive problem, engineering it so that they can then offer the solution, which is a world central bank and a global banking centralized dictatorship which will control all world finance in every country.
Oh, absolutely.
And what are they now doing, Ross?
Yeah, they're doing it.
Now, as we speak, they're suggesting that this must happen to solve the problem of the chaos which the people offering the problem have actually created.
Nobody expected this pandemic. Nobody thought about, well, what kind of government would I want in a pandemic? But what Canadians got was a government that had as its fundamental instincts and responsibilities to make sure that Canadians supported each other, that we were there for each other, that we were supporting the most vulnerable, that we were supporting those people who are working so hard to support each other, to create growth, to create opportunities, and that we respected science throughout. These are the things that come through in a crisis.
So this week alone, I get a press release from 10 Downing Street each week as a journalist, an update of what's being said. And those words that you said years and years ago, coming up again from Gordon Brown, working towards global governance.
Yeah.
And that's an actual press statement from our Prime Minister, working towards global governance. That worries me, because that seems to me to vindicate everything you've said about a new world order and us working towards a global governance.
And remember, before we can do anything around rebuilding better for the coming years, we have to end this pandemic. That the vast majority, closing in on 80% of Canadians, did the right thing during this pandemic. Kept their distances, wore their masks, washed their hands 25 times a day, stayed home when they could, delivered in when they could, and mostly got vaccinated.
Why do we have this incessant obsession with the centralization of power in all areas of our lives? You look back, we've had this procession through centuries and decades and now years and even getting close to hours towards more and more centralization of power on a global level. Why? Because when you're the few and you want to control the many, you have to centralize decision-making.
We are leading the world on vaccinations. And as good as this government was in getting enough doses for everyone months ahead of schedule, the credit goes to Canadians themselves who listened to science, who made those sacrifices, who did the right thing, got vaccinated to protect themselves and their loved ones. And now, as we look at this fall, we all have an opportunity to get back a little more to normal. Except that those people who have not yet chosen to get vaccinated are putting all this at risk. Not only are they putting at risk our kids who are still too young to get vaccinated. I have a 7-year-old who started in grade 2 just earlier this week. Very excited about it, but he's vulnerable. I have, friends who are immunocompromised, who are facing challenges around getting vaccinated. They are more vulnerable. And mostly, all of us, even if we did the right things and got vaccinated, are at risk of lockdowns because of future waves of unvaccinated, which nobody wants to go back to.
The more diversity of decision-making that you have, the less control any central few are going to have over it. So you have to centralize decision-making, because then your decisions affect and have to be followed, at least in theory, by everyone on the planet. This is why we're getting this mantra all the time now about international law. We must have international law. What is international law? It is a law that everyone on the planet has to obey, in theory anyway. And so if you want, which is what they do want, a world government, a world central bank, a world army, an amalgamation of NATO and the UN peacekeeping operation, a world currency, electronic, no cash, and a microchip population, then what you've got to do, and this is the way they work, a process I call problem, reaction, solution, you've got to keep creating the problems, get the people to react, do something in fear and outrage, all of what's happening, what they're going to do about it, and then they, who've covertly created the problem, offer the solutions to the problems they've created, which is the constant centralization of power. That's what all the solutions are.
And more than that, our economy can't afford to go back to. So you see conservative politicians like Aaron O'Toole saying, you know what, we have to put the economy first. Well, you can't put the economy first if you're not serious about vaccinations. And that's why it's so shocking that he would roll back our plans to make sure that anyone on a plane or train is vaccinated, that anyone in the federal public service gets vaccinated, and that we work with the provinces on vaccine certification so that all of you who are vaccinated can go to movie theaters and gyms and restaurants without being worried that you're putting yourselves or your kids at risk because someone who is unvaccinated could be beside you. People have the choice. People may have the choice to not get vaccinated, but they don't have the choice to put my kids or your kids at risk. They don't get to make the choice to put the rest of our society at risk. And that's exactly what we're doing.
And we're seeing such a wonderful example now with what's happening in the financial industry.
Absolutely.
And if we don't wake up, we're going to live in a global fascist dictatorship within 5 to 10 years.
Maybe even less.
Well, I'm definitely being optimistic with the 10.
So the choice in this election, which is an extremely important election, not just for ending this pandemic,
but for building back better into the coming years and decades,
couldn't be clearer.
How's everyone doing?
How's everybody doing?